Well, hello there, Dippers, and welcome back to round 21 of the Knuckle Sammich podcast, the official MMA podcast of Sauce on the Side. As always, I'm your host, Drake, and join breaking down these fights, gonna pick us 6 winners for that 6-fight parlay this week, Mr. Thomas R. Shackelford.
We're going 6-0.
We are going 6-0 indeed. This week we are going to break down all of the card in the Lone Star State, UFC 228, and Shackelford and I have a dog that will howl. And we've been talking about this dog that'll howl for some time now. We will break down all these fights and hit a few little fun topics at the end. So Dippers, get your sports books out, get ready, and let's get some winners.
Welcome to the Knuckle Sammich podcast with Thomas R. Shackelford,
a Sauce on the Side production. Alright, so UFC 228, we have an absolutely loaded card. I mean, this card, top to bottom, is absolutely loaded. We have 5, I believe, top 10 matchups, which makes this card unbelievable. And if you're looking for, if you're not looking to pony up the cash, you don't have any friends and you don't want to pay $60 for the main card, there are still 2 top 10 matchups head-to-head on the FS1 card. So, Mr. Shackelford, we'll start it off hot. We'll start it off with the fight that will actually be Leighton C's 10 Seconds of Sweat, where he will break down the fight himself. We'll start with the welterweight championship fight, one of 15 championship belts at the welterweight division that are out right now. It's Tyron Woodley, unbeaten since 2014, 3 title defenses, 2 wins, taking on Darren Till. Fight opened up. Woodley was actually the favorite, minus 140 to Till's plus 120. Right now, it is minus 115, minus 115. The betting odds are even. Mr. Shackelford, who are we taking on this night?
I don't see any way to go against Till on this one. I got Till. I'm going to call a TKO. I'm going to say round 4. He touches Woodley up enough to get that stoppage. The things I'm looking for in this fight, we'll kind of break down Woodley, which we gave Leighton his homework on, and we gave him a couple fights to watch on Woodley. He's a power wrestler. What I mean by that is he wasn't a guy that's gonna kill you with technique. He's a guy that gets underneath you, gets his hands wrapped around you and slams you. Not the most technical guy, big, strong, powerful, and against a guy like Till, that's tough. Till's a lot taller than him, probably just as strong as him, and fight night he'll weigh more than him. So that you kind of got to nix that. The other thing that Woodley is a killer at, and this is the thing, mixing that wrestling with this right here, is what won him the championship and what has made a lot of his championship fights, some of them boring, weird would be the best way to put it. He's a guy that he's like a train. He just goes straight forward. So his big punch is the overhand right and then a mean left hook. And if he touches you with them, you'll absolutely go out. There's no way around it. If he touches you with either one of those, you go out. But he's not a crisp boxer. He's not jab, crawl, He does one of 2 things. Backs up and explodes with a right and just runs forward with punches, or he backs up, fakes the right, explodes with a left hook, and then just series of punches into the cage. I remember Duke Rufus said in his fight against Wonder Boy, his game plan was to back up to put himself on the fence, so that way when he got on the tracks and started running with his punches, he had 25 feet to go to hit Wonder Boy, which when you break that down in your head sounds like the worst game plan of all time.
Oh, absolutely terrible.
And it's what created those weird fights. I mean, one was a draw, one was a kind of a razor-thin split decision. I think it was a fight that they had no clue who to give it to, so they're like, we'll just give him his belt back type thing.
Yeah. What's funny is you said that Tyron Woodley and kind of his new strategy for fights, it's kind of bizarre because you and I were texting earlier today talking about what kind of homework we were going to give Leighton C for his 10 seconds of sweat, and I told you, hey, let's have Leighton watch the Maya fight. And you said, no, we got to find something older than that. We got to find something back whenever Woodley was good. And you were basically hinting at when Woodley was good and fun to watch was before he even went on this title reign. And it's kind of bizarre for a guy like Woodley to change his style up so much and be so effective with it, but yet it just makes a terrible product for us viewers. And we figured that Leighton, if we put him on the Maya fight, he'd get through about a minute and a half of it and turn it off.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think I turned that fight off after a minute and a half. To Woodley's credit, I think he tore his labrum or partially tore his labrum with maybe like the first punch thrown or something. So I can see how that one got
He must have done that for like 4 straight fights then.
Well, I'll look at his record. You got that Damian Maia, that kind of weird one. Then you got the split decision win over Stephen Thompson, which was essentially a 5-round staring contest. Then you got the draw with Stephen Thompson, which was pretty much the exact same fight. Then he, blitzed Robbie Lawler, KOs him. That's the Woodley that we came to know. But then again, he kind of had that staring contest with Gastelum, who we know missed weight gigantically and was in poor shape for that. Then he runs over Dong Hyun Kim, runs him over. Train tracks, ran him over. Then he lost to Rory McDonald. And probably the weirdest loss or the weirdest win of his career was against Carlos Condit, which to me, I don't know that I could count that. If that was me, I wouldn't count that as a win as myself. Condit tore his ACL in the fight. Woodley didn't leg kick him until he tore his ACL. Condit defended the takedown. You could tell he had a hurt knee, and Woodley kicked him in it, and Condit went down. But when you listen to Woodley talk about it, that's like one of his key victories. I guess that's something to maybe. Is that something we should look up to Woodley about? Like, a lot of his wins are staring contests or kooky wins. Like, that's not necessarily something I'd be like, oh, dude, I killed that dude. Oh, well, he tore his ACL and then you kicked it. I like that you kicked it. Yeah. Johnny sweep the leg.
Smart fighter.
He did it, but but before that, he did. So he's lost twice in the octagon to Jake Shields and who else did I just say? Jake Shields and
Rory McDonald.
And Rory McDonald was the other one. But aside from that, which he did have a real nasty fight with Nate Marquardt in Strikeforce, I think it was, that he got KO'd. But almost every other dude, he runs him over. Jay Huron, like I said, Dong Hyun Kim, the one Leighton did his homework on, Josh Koscheck. It's Woodley's almost. He has one fight where he runs the dude over, the guy doesn't respect him, and he just blitzes him and runs him over. And then he'll have 2 more fights where it's a staring contest, and he looks like he doesn't have a game plan, but they don't want to come in. They're not going to blitz him because they know he's got those bombs. So kind of the keys that I see to victory for Till is, one, he's got to block those shots, which Till does a really good job of blocking shots with an A-frame. In wrestling, it'd be, kind of down block, essentially is what it is, except he's got an A-frame, which could lead into the tie clinch after. I think the tie clinch mixed with that A-frame block will be really good for him. Also, I'd like to see him kicking early, kicking not only the leg. Till's a southpaw, so he'll be kicking the lead left leg of Woodley, but also I'd like to see him kicking that right arm of Woodley. Because if he's dropping, body to head kicks on that right arm, it's going to beat that arm up. It's not going to be as effective. The other thing, to stay away from that right hand and to use those kicks, which would keep him out of distance, his straight left, which we know is an absolute stunner, he's got to be ready to use it whenever Woodley tries to sprint with that left hook. So as far as the ways Till can win, I see way more ways for him to win. And I feel like Woodley's body type and the way he fights just plays right into Till. He's a bigger, stronger puncher, good grappler, good wrestler, but he's almost got that Conor McGregor range. He can find that left hand or that kick at any moment. So I don't see... you hate to pick against a guy that's had like 4 title fight wins, that's probably is going to go down as the third, in my opinion, the third best welterweight in the company's history, but I just think Till's a bad matchup for him.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I think that there's absolutely no way that Woodley's going to win this fight. If Woodley wins this fight, it would be a huge shock to me. And like you said, if Woodley comes out there and just tries to run him over, Till is so much bigger, so much longer than him, and he uses his reach well. We talked about James Vick, why we were worried about him being able to beat
I'm glad you brought that up.
Gaethje, was simply because Vick is not able to use that range. A guy like Till he's looking to fight at range because he knows he's good at it. And he, in a way, does have that Conor McGregor, not only the fact that he uses his distance, but he has that aura to him, too, where he's not scared of anybody. Like, you look at a guy like Woodley, who's came out and said, we weren't even sure that he would still fight if Till missed weight. And a guy like Till, he's going to fight anybody, anywhere, anytime. And he even beat the guy who's best at that, and Donald Cerrone. And I just don't see a way possible for Woodley to win this fight. I don't even see Woodley being able to land a takedown. I think anytime he gets close, he's just going to get punched in the face. And Till has good enough takedown defense to be able to kind of just not necessarily wrestle him off, but just kind of shake him off.
Yeah.
And I don't think Tyron Woodley's going to get close to that. And in fact, the way that I picture this fight in my head is Tyron Woodley's going to come in and Till's going to actually hit that little A-frame that you were talking about, kind of circle out of it, and then blast Woodley and probably finish this fight.
I could see it. I mean, Woodley has been knocked dead before, that Marquardt fight.
I don't see this fight making it past the 4th round. I don't see it going 5 rounds. And, you look at Till, he's obviously an extremely smart fighter. Woodley is too. That's why he hasn't gotten into any of those grappling matchups, with Maia. Yeah. And he's a pretty smart fighter. But the way that Darren Till just completely dismantled Stephen Thompson on his feet shows to me he's probably the smartest fighter at that division. Yeah. And Till, as soon as he beat Stephen Thompson, I was on here saying he's the next big thing. Mm-hmm. He is here. We're going to see it Saturday. Darren Till is going to walk out of there heads and shoulders above the rest of the division and be the welterweight champ. So we actually gave Leighton some homework. We sent Leighton on the path to watch 2 fights. Or a fight from each one of these guys. And if you guys don't know anything about Leighton and his fight breakdowns, basically picks it like a cockfight. Whichever one looks meaner, whichever one looks stronger, that's the one that Leighton goes with. And Leighton C, Tyron Woodley, Darren Till, what did you see in their 2 fights?
Alright, so the first fight I watched was Woodley and Koscheck. I bet Woodley could have a specimen, and Koscheck, kind of like Don Vito, went on a diet. Before we get into this, I have a bit about fight videos real quick. So, I watched a fight on YouTube, obviously, and opened up Teletape, which is good, because actually the guy I'm going to pick. I'm looking at him. Then they go to all the bullshit, like ring announcer and handshake crap. I don't want to see that. They should go, Teletape, ring girl, fight. Cut down like a whole minute and a half of the video.
Kind of like whenever you watch like the All 22. All you see is just you see the play, and then you see the next play.
Yeah, I don't want to see all the bullshit in between. But, yeah, it's a fight starts, Woodley's on the attack. He's going to destroy this guy. All Koscheck wants to do to keep the fight up against the fence, which would not happen in my UFC. And then God bless her Dean for getting him off the fucking fence after like a minute. Moore had a double KO where both guys threw a straight jab and they both just kind of sidestepped it. I don't even sidestepped it. I think the momentum of throwing the same punch, like right punch at the same time, just threw their bodies out of the way of each other's punches. Then they just start slinging, and then I come to the conclusion that Woodley is actually a grizzly bear. He is manhandling this dude. Koscheck, fighting is like watching a Cinemax porn. It almost gets you there, but it's not enough. And then God bless Hoodie once again for getting that shit off the ground. And then Tyron Lue punched the demons back into Don Vito.
Punch the demons back into Don Vito.
So, performance of the night bonus for Herb Dean.
Yes. Was that fight of the year?
No.
No.
Oh,
That
God.
was way better than the fight
That
last
was a
week.
sad fight of the year. That was like a 40-year-old costume.
You know, the great part about that is that was one of the fights that Sean deemed exciting for Tyron Woodley.
Yes.
So,
I thought it was pretty exciting.
That was one of the
really
sandwich
enjoyed that.
fights.
Okay, the next one I watched is Tail Cowboy. Normally Telltale, I look at it, I don't mention it because I think it's kind of the same. But my God, Cowboy's old.
yes, he is.
So I took Till on this one just off youthful intuition. And at the beginning of the fight, Till was the aggressor. And then Cowboy took him down. But thanks to Till's youthful intuition, he got back up to his feet easily. And then basically it's all Till and a whole lot of dancing. And Till was playing whack-a-mole with Cowboy's face. And then at one point in time, he gets the high score. And then at one point in time, he gets the high score in the game. And the game breaks. And Cowboy falls down. And I guess it's just really shocking because the announcers acted like it's a big deal that happened.
Well, yeah, it was Darren Till, who was basically unproven, undefeated, but that was like a next step fight for him. So, seeing what you saw in those two fights, who do you think's going to win and why?
Tyron Woodley, Casey Grizzly Bear.
You think Tyron
You're
Woodley's going
picking
to win?
Woodley?
Yes.
You ain't done nothing but complain about Woodley for 2 years.
And all he's done is won for 2 years.
Very true.
That's true.
You know, and to go back to that, he has won for a long time, so it feels weird to pick against him so easy. And you know, I think I skipped over it earlier. What happens to a good fighter, an exciting fighter, when he becomes champ? I mean, just the pressure. I think because I think they make a base pay of like $150,000 for a title fight when you're the champ. But say that's not his solid contract. So if he loses that fight, he goes back down to whatever his pre-contract was. We'll say it was $60,000 a fight. So I think that pressure, the pressure from all the eyes, the expectations, takes a toll. I mean, that's why GSP got out. Anderson Silva talked about that a lot when he finally lost. Even Mighty Mouse has talked about it a few times. That, in my opinion, that's why it's better to be like a McGregor. You're going to get flack no matter what you do, whether you defend a bunch or whether you win and go. I'd much rather be a McGregor that's a conqueror. He's Genghis Khan. He conquers and he leaves. He goes to the next big thing. Because that keeps the fights exciting, everything bigger. But then when you're these guys like GSP or like I said, even Anderson had some fights in there that they're just weird. I don't want to call them boring. They're still fights. While you're watching the fight, the anticipation's still there, so it's not as boring. But you can't go back and watch those fights again. You're just like, oh hell, I know. You know, it's like The Sixth Sense. You loved it the first time, you can't ever watch it again. I mean, it's pretty much ruined.
Yeah, that was. I think you just described Damian Maia versus Tyron Woodley right there.
Yeah.
The anticipation was there all the fight, but then whenever you watch it the second time, it's terrible.
You just can't do it.
No, you can't even turn it on. So we'll go ahead and head to the next fight. Women's flyweight division. Fight for the title. Nico Montano. She is actually getting the chance to defend her belt for the first time. She won the inaugural women's flyweight title with a unanimous decision in her first go-around. And now she's going to be taking on the highly touted Valentina Shevchenko, who is probably my favorite female fighter in the UFC. I mean, just an extremely highly touted kickboxer turned MMA superstar. Montano, even though she is the title holder, opens as a plus 350 dog to Shevchenko's minus 550 favorite. These odds since opening day have jumped to Shevchenko being a minus 1,200 favorite. Shackelford, where is this fight going to take us?
This fight's going to take us straight to that Valentina Shevchenko wacky dance she does after all her wins, and she's going to get a new bullet tattoo probably within about 2-3 minutes. So you touched on it, and we talked about it on the break a little bit. Nico Montano, nobody knows who she is.
No.
This was a title that they did off a Tough show. So,
which is the right way to bring it in.
It kind of is. I mean, 125 pounds, not quite an established division. You got to remember, in the girls, the way the girls work, the bigger the weight class, the less filled the weight classes are. So a lot of those, there's a ton of 15-pounders, there's a ton of 110-pounders, a ton of 105-pounders that are fighting up at 115. But anything past that, it's kind of a crapshoot. You got 35 and 45. So think about that for a second. They had a 115-pound weight class, a 135, and then they made a 145 for Cyborg. So that just getting a little off topic there, but so they did the 125-pound. So Nico Montano won all her fights on there, but then maybe like the week of the Tough finale, which was for the belt, I don't know what happened. The girl she was supposed to fight wasn't able to fight. So one of the girls that fought earlier in the show, I think, had lost, went ahead and got it, and that was Roxanne Modafferi, who some people might know. She actually fought. She's kind of a real goofy girl, lived in Japan for a while. She actually fought at 135 on the first Girls Tough season. So, but as far as girls go, she's one of the tougher ones. Nico won a really close split decision, but we haven't seen her since. We don't know. They said there were some injuries, but I mean, it's been like a year. Shevchenko dropped down to 25, just absolutely obliterated a girl, basically lost Mario Yamasaki his job. I don't know if you remember that fight. I think she hit the girl with like 350 strikes, and like the girl, it was like one strike to 350. The girl tore her ACL.
That's efficient.
Well, it is efficient. I don't know. There's no other way to put that. But Mario Yamasaki didn't stop the fight for some reason until Shevchenko just beat the girl half to death. This is almost an amateur fighting a pro. This would be a really tough amateur fighter bumping up her first pro fight to fight the best person in the world at that weight. And we know she's the best because she was one of the best, probably top 2 or 3 at 10 pounds heavier, 20 pounds heavier.
Absolutely.
And she made the weight easy. Shevchenko. I mean, I actually talked about it 10 times longer than I thought I was going to. I don't see any way that Valentina's not 20 steps better than Nico Montano, which is sad because Nico's a good story. She's Native American, trains at Fit NHB out of Albuquerque. Like, she's a good story, and in 2-3 years she could be a really, really great fighter, and she's a good fighter. But man, this is a tough for your first title defense. Jesus.
Yeah, no, Shevchenko. This is going to be. I see with Till how I think that he's going to reign dominant on that division for some time. This is going to be Shevchenko's division until she doesn't want it to be anymore. I mean, we look at her, and whenever I say that somebody wins a night and they lose, they must have done something really impressive. She fought Amanda Nunes twice and looked as good as we've seen anybody fight Amanda Nunes. And whenever she fought her again, she looked just as good. I mean, it was a split decision, and the first fight was a 3-round fight, and all signs were pointing to Shevchenko being able to win that if it was a 5-round fight. Her only loss in MMA outside of Amanda Nunes, who we could almost propel right to the top of being the best mixed martial artist as a female in the world. And her only loss outside of that was a doctor's stoppage. And that was in 2010. So she's been completely dominant since then, even beating Holly Holm. And we saw, Holly Holm was even able to stand in there with Cyborg, which is almost impossible to do. This is Shevchenko's until she doesn't want it anymore. And this won't be a close fight, just like you said. So we'll go ahead and get to the next female fight on the card, and it should be a very good fight. You have the number 2 ranked Jessica Andrade taking on Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Kowalkiewicz actually opens as the plus 130 dog. Andrade opens as the minus 140 favorite. These two fighters basically took similar paths to this fight. Both of them have fought Joanna and Claudia Gadelha in 2 of their last 4 previous fights. So if you look at the makeup of how they got here, pretty similar routes. Number 2 versus number 4. Who do we have in this fight?
I feel comfortable, more than comfortable, with Jessica Andrade on this. If you guys don't know her, she's essentially beat everybody in the division except for JJ. Joanna beat her in that title fight. She's a tank engine. I mean, she just, there's no other way to put it. She's got strong hands, pretty rudimentary hands, but strong. Mostly punches to get a big takedown and then just beats him up on the ground. I actually think she's a terrible matchup for Rose Namajunas, because when Rose had her biggest trouble, it was like Carla Esparza took her down a bunch. I think with this win over Carolina, Andrade is going to get the next title shot against Rose. Carolina, she also had a real good fight with JJ, but then her next fight she lost to, I want to say either Tisha Torres or Claudia Gadelha. I can't, off the top of my head, I can't. They took her down real quick, tapped her out.
I think it was Gadelha.
Was it Gadelha? Either way, they were essentially Andrade, Gadelha, and Tisha Torres. They're basically just littler, less powerful versions of Andrade. And I think Carolina's in for a tough night. She's more of a slick, distant striker, which is why she had that pretty good fight with Joanna. But man, Andrade, I just see her walking straight forward, putting it up against the cage, putting her on the mat. Just 15 minutes of just real good workman's-like decision, probably getting her a shot at Rose.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I was pretty shocked that the betting odds were so far apart from each other. I thought that they would be, closer together, but not necessarily like a pick'em fight or anything like that. I do think Andrade is going to win, just like you said, but I was very surprised for the betting odds to be so far apart. So we'll go ahead and switch gears here, and we'll go ahead and stick with the female fights here, and we'll kind of rally them out. We actually have number 6 ranked Carla Esparza opens as a plus 250 underdog to Tatiana Suarez, who's the number 9 ranked fighter, tough season 23 winner. Minus 350 favorite. So number 6 is actually an underdog to number 9, so this kind of points towards you and I saying that they just need to revamp the rankings almost tenfold. Who do you see winning in this fight, Esparza or Suarez?
For those of you who don't remember, one of our first shows we did, Tatiana came on and I really started looking into her. She is the girl, just a little of her backstory, she is the girl that she wrestled in the Metro East area, so pretty close to us college-wise. She was an Olympic hopeful, had a neck injury. When she went to get her neck checked out, she had thyroid cancer. Spent like a year or 2 dealing with that, so took her out of the Olympic Games, out of her Olympic cycle. She's going to be the next champ at 25. Valentina's going to have it until Valentina won't even be tested until
she won't sweat until Suarez fights her.
Suarez fights her. This girl her wrestling is amazing. Really, really good ground and pound. Basically, she just overwhelms people. Got good striking, takes down, and just take down. Just top pressure till people break. She's 6-0. So you mentioned the rankings there. She was actually unranked and fought Alexa, or she may have been ranked 15. She fought Alexa Grasso. Grasso was number 9 ranked. She beat Grasso in 2 minutes and 44 seconds, tapped her out. So that's why she's ranked number 9. Esparza, former champ, has been a little bit off and on, had a couple splits. I think she should have won her last fight, but that's why the rankings are a little kooky on this one, because Tatiana she jumped from like 15 to 9 in one fight. Well, she's about to jump from 9 to 6 in another. The Esparza basically fights a lot like Tatiana. She's just not nearly as effective. She's not nearly as in-your-face style. So Esparza, the Cookie Monster, I do like her. I think she's still a really good fighter at this division. I just think Tatiana's going to be all over her. And you know what? I lied to you. Tatiana's in 115 pounds. I'm sorry. So Valentina's still safe. Tatiana, within, we'll say a year and a half, she's going to be, I think she'll be the champ at 115.
Yeah, this is going to be like her put her on the map for everybody out there, because there will be fighting on the the pay-per-view card. They'll be on the main card, so this is going to be her chance to come out and show everybody what she has. And I think everybody's going to be kind of surprised of how good she is.
I do have it going by decision. I think Esparza, I saw a bunch of other people just picking Tatiana just to like mop the floor with her and tap her or KO her. Esparza's a vet. I mean, she's a former champ. She's beat some of the best. She's had some really close fights. The ones that she's lost to the best, really the only one that she got starched was against Joanna, and I think that was maybe something like we'll see with the Valentina, or maybe when Rich Franklin fought Anderson Silva. We just didn't know how good Joanna was at the time. We just saw this girl who just beat all these really good fighters on Tough. She's got to be the best girl in the world. And then, oh, wait, there's a girl named Joanna that no one's heard of that just beats the brakes off of her. So I see Tatiana getting a real comfortable, easy decision out of here.
Right. I'm excited for that fight. I'm really excited to watch Tatiana Suarez fight because, she is pretty new to the UFC. So this will be kind of her coming out party. And I think this is kind of why the UFC set her up on the main card on Saturday, is so people could actually see her against, like you said, a seasoned vet. And this is kind of where they take that new dog and throw him in there with the established name in the organization. That way people can really realize that this person is good. So we'll go ahead and get to some men's fights here. We have Zabit Magomed-Shapirov. I hope I did not butcher that name too bad.
Good enough.
Opens as a minus 650 favorite to Brandon Davis, who is a plus 400 dog. The odds since then have jumped extremely large in favor of Zabit, and this is kind of a bummer fight in my opinion. Yair Rodriguez got pulled just 2 weeks before the fight was scheduled to take place, so Brandon Davis is fighting on short notice. Do you see any route to victory for Brandon Davis?
No. Murder, death, kill, Zabit in one.
I agree with that. I think that's the easiest fight breakdown. I don't think you really need to say anything else other than that.
The only other thing I want to say is Russian Ninja. Russian Ninja, murder, death, kill. You'll have to watch the fight.
Yes, and this is going to be a quick one. So wait and see. This might be your favorite fight of the night. And then let's talk about another fight that you are actually you've been big on Nico Price for a while now. 12-1. He's coming off of an impressive knockout of Randy Brown. He's fighting Abdul Razak Al-Hassan. Okay, Abdul Razak Al-Hassan, who's 9-1. So both guys coming in only with one loss. This is actually, outside of the Woodley Till fight, one of the only fights that are close in betting odds. You have Nico Price. He's a plus 120 dog to Abdul's minus 140 favorite. Where do you see this fight going, and who do you have coming out on top?
This might be fight of the night, to be honest. I'm picking Nico Price, and basically the reason I'm picking him is because of his length. He still has some power, and the dude has a really, really good fight IQ. For those of you guys that don't remember him, maybe you'll remember him by this. He's the dude that just knocked out Randy Brown. He was on his back and he knocked him out with hammer fists. I remember it impressed Leighton C a bunch when we were watching it. Or when you guys watched it, you guys texted me and it was like, holy crap, he just knocked him out with a hammer fist from the bottom. But basically, he did lose to a Bravo choke in one of his UFC fights, but really, he's done nothing but nothing but win and kind of fight above his pay grade the whole time. Good length, good striking, good wrestling, good jiu-jitsu. But to me, the thing that always sticks out about him is his IQ. He seems to take the fight exactly where that guy's worst at. And so if you don't know Al Hassan, this dude looks like a little G.I. Joe. He's jacked to the gills, insanely powerful. He was a judo guy, super explosive. His biggest weakness is takedown defense. His one loss in the UFC, when you watch a fight and you see a guy shoot a double leg from 16 feet away and you're like, that shit's never going to work. Well, it works on this guy.
Oh, okay.
He's a judo guy, so you got to remember, he's spent his whole life grabbing on a gi top and getting into over and under game. He's got zero sprawl. He fought I believe it was a little Belarusian or a Russian dude. The dude got clocked a few times, and he's like, forget this. I'm doing the 20-foot double leg. Worked every time. And this guy also, because he is so jacked and powerful, he has some gas tank issues. So if Nico can avoid the gigantic haymaker at the beginning of each round, the dude does throw him at the beginning of every round. If he can avoid getting clocked in the first 20 to 30 seconds in each round, hit him a nice John Smith low single from 100 yards away, he's just going to wear this dude down and get a decision or a submission late.
Yeah, I agree with you. And, to point out the fact that Nico Price does have such a high fight IQ, you saw it in the last fight. I mean, we're talking about a guy who is on his back, and he knocked him out with a hammer fist. If you think, if you're trying to picture it in your head of how that could be humanly possible, he actually used his foot to wrap around the back of his head so he would actually get some more power on the punch and bring him in. So I really like Nico Price. I think he's set up in a good spot here. All he knows coming into this fight, what he has to do in order to win, and I think he's going to be able to pull that off. I wouldn't be surprised if Al Hassan's just like completely dead by the end of this fight, just from full exhaustion.
He reminds me a lot of Hector Lombard. You remember him?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean, essentially, he's like the a little bit less muscular version of Hector Lombard. Wings those gigantic punches, might bounce you off your head, but if you survive that 30 seconds, he needs that 4.5 minute break before he can explode again.
Yeah, I feel like he needs to be Nico Price in order to get his conditioning right for this. Just needs to listen to Latency's 10 Seconds of Sweat. Because if he can make it through this, he can make it through Abdul's 20-second Fury.
Oh, yeah.
So the bottom of the card has a ton of good fights. I mean, you have Diego Sanchez on there. He's past his prime. We can always go ahead and say that. But a big name there. Jim Miller, big name there. You have John Dodson versus Jimmy Rivera. You have Aljamain Sterling taking on Cody Stamann. Are any of the fights at the bottom of the card really, popping your interest up?
Of course, we love Jim Miller. I didn't really look to see who was fighting. Just happy to see him on the card. Diego. There's a great chance he'll pick up this W. The dude he's fighting, we've seen once before. I think Neil Magny knocked the dude dead.
Yes, it was whenever Neil Magny was taken. I think he had to fight on short notice.
Well, this dude basically is a jiu-jitsu fighter, not overly powerful at all. Kind of slick jiu-jitsu. So, I mean, actually, if you had a gun to my head, I'd say Diego gets a win on that pretty easy. The other one, Rivera Dodson, that's a pretty interesting one. I mean, that's kind of weird they threw Jimmy Rivera against Dodson, as Dodson's kind of a staple of that division and a really tough out for anyone. And Rivera's just coming off that 15-second KO of Marlon Moraes. You remember Jimmy Rivera?
Yeah, that's just 3 months ago.
Yeah, Jimmy Rivera was like 20-1 or something, expected to be the next big guy. I picked Moraes to beat him. I didn't think he'd knock him out in 15 seconds. He just got hit with a really quick switch kick. Just a weird pairing there. And, Rivera coming off a big KO 3 months ago, going against probably the hardest puncher in the division. I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to say Dodson picks this up.
Yeah, the odds are pretty close. Dodson is a dog there, but I wouldn't be surprised.
When I was picking down the main card, that's the easiest main card I've ever had to pick. The only one that I had to really think about a little bit was the Nico Price Abdul Razak Hassan fight. So if you're looking to maybe go against us on one or two and still pick up a dog or something, I would go with Dodson. I mean, I think he's probably your best chance at a dog KO here. He's the hardest puncher in the division, super quick, good takedown defense, and he's going against a guy that got knocked dead 3 months ago.
Thomas R. Shackelford's Lock Dog of the Week, John Dodson. Yeah, I do like that pick. And we've talked about it. We don't know why the Russian guy's back so quick. I feel like Rivera, you could have left him on the back burner, and if you wanted to target him a fight, you could have probably threw him on the McGregor card because he is a good draw on himself, but you have to bolster that card up. I don't know why you just kind of throw him out there after 3 months, especially against a guy like John Dodson. This card's loaded. It's just loaded.
It is. Top to bottom, there's every fight's a tough dude. I mean, this would be a fun one if you got Fight Pass. You're essentially watching from Fight Pass till midnight. So
absolutely. So anything else before we wrap this show up?
We got you got some fun ones coming up. Conor Khabib, obviously the 6th, but then after that you got Mitrione versus Bader the 12th, the 13th Sonnen versus Fedor. Another one that kind of snuck up on me, Musasi on October 3rd, I think it is. I could be I'm sorry, I forget what day it is, but Musasi versus McDonald over in Bellator. You got Rampage versus Vanderlei 3. You got some fun ones coming up in October. One thing I did want to talk about, we had a little laugh at it a couple days ago, the KSI versus Logan Paul thing. For those of you guys that don't know, I have no clue who these guys are. I asked my 11-year-old daughter. She knew who Logan Paul was right away, which shows my age. Those dudes just had basically an amateur 6-round boxing fight that sold 800,000 pay-per-view buys on YouTube. They were $10 buys, sold 800,000 of them. And I told you that on some Twitch channels, there was over 1 million people watching on those Twitch channels. I don't even know what Twitch is, but it's kind of crazy thinking you got two YouTube personalities that is most likely the most watched fight in the history of our world.
That's crazy.
I mean, number 2 would probably be McGregor, Floyd Mayweather. There was some arguing over the actual pay-per-view numbers. There was like a 2 million person difference, but in my eyes, the boxing game and MMA hasn't caught up with people streaming. They don't know how to count the streaming yet. Whereas Logan Paul versus KSI, you could just go to some dude's Twitch channel, which is what I did. I was watching on some nerdy kid. He was breaking down. I'm not joking, guys. He was breaking down the fight as they were fighting. They showed video of the prelims, but then he cut out when the actual fight came on so he wouldn't get shut down. But he was commentating it. I'm not joking. It's probably some 14-year-old nerdy kid on Twitch.
Just took a break from Fortnite. And he's like, ooh, KSI with a good dodge there. Oh, Logan Paul with a nice, he's hugging him. Oh, another nice dodge. Oh, he hit him with a pretty nice slap there. The kid clearly had never seen in a fight in his whole entire life. But he was commentating and had like 1 million viewers watching his commentary. That's hilarious.
So, just a little fun thing to think about there. You got all this promotion and stuff behind the UFC and Bellator, and these two YouTube dudes just come along and probably obliterate any numbers that has ever happened in boxing or MMA.
That might be why we're seeing the UFC signing guys like CM Punk, bringing Brock Lesnar back around for the 400th time.
I wouldn't be surprised if Logan Paul gets a UFC fight.
Did you see who was one of the first people up at the podium to take that? Sage Northcutt.
I think that's what you told me. Yeah, The dude, I don't know. The dude's got like 40 million YouTube followers. And
That might be a fight Sage can win.
I mean, hey, Logan Paul apparently wrestled in high school. He looks athletic. He was supposedly a pretty good football player. You know what? Screw it. I'm all in. You know what? Let's call that our bold prediction. Within 6 months, we have a Logan Paul versus Sage Northcutt on a card somewhere.
Brian Barberena needs to teach him the crossbody arm triangle, because Sage Northcutt, you get him a little strep throat in the system, he's going to be susceptible.
Over.
And on that note, for Drake, for latency and his 10 seconds of sweat, and Mr. Shackelford, we're looking for that 6-0 week. As always, Dippers, stay saucy.